Guys, I want to apologize for my voice. Been very sick the past week, and unfortunately, I need to record this as quickly as possible because once I get to Fire Emblem Fates, I'm not doing this. So I hope you enjoy my top 5 saddest animated deaths, not Disney. You're not going to see any Disney here. It's going to be a cross between cartoon and anime. So I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you do like it, be sure to like it, share it, and let me know what you think of it in the comments below. Later. Song of the Petalars, probably the best episode from Thundercats 2011. It's probably the only thing good that came out of this show. It made me straight up cry, and here's why. The episode begins with Lionel and company being hunted by the lizard army. Lionel decides to sneak past them by going through what seems to be ordinary woods. And here is where we're introduced to the Petalars, a race of plant-like creatures that are the size of mice. Temporarily frightened by the Thundercats' unexpected visit, the Petalars quickly realize they are not there to harm them. We're introduced to the shining star of this episode, Emmerich, an energetic child Petalar who grows attached to Lionel. The Petalar gives some backstory to why they are currently in these woods in which they do not natively belong. They come from a secret garden that was swept away by deadly winds, then found themselves in the woods where they currently reside. They claim to be stuck in these woods for generations. The Thundercats decide to help the Petalars find their way back home. As the Thundercats guide the way, a flying creature appears out of nowhere. Emmerich is captured by this creature and Lionel chases it. Emmerich is then dropped. He then returns to Lionel, but much older, with a teenage appearance. It seems as if time moves at an accelerated speed for the Petalars. Hours for Lionel could be years for the Petalars. Back to the lizard army, we see they plan on destroying the woods to lure Lionel out. Nightfall is near and more Petalars begin to wither away. But here, we see Emmerich become older once more, this time to an adult. Emmerich believes he found the exit to the woods, which will then get them closer to the secret garden. But the lizard army strikes the Thundercats and successfully captures them. Being the swordsman that Emmerich is, he gives the people of the Petalars speech to motivate helping the Thundercats. For them, the Thundercats were there for their entire lives, helping them. They attack the lizard army, with some even sacrificing themselves in battle. Emmerich leads the attack and saves our heroes. As they get to their destination, they realize they may not be going home. The lizard army, out of spite, burns the woods down, hoping to kill everyone in it. So they thought they weren't going home, but Emmerich realized the winds to go home exist through the fire that just erupted. But Emmerich ages once more to an old Petalar and dies. Before he dies, he tells everyone that it's not about the amount of time you lived, but rather how you lived it, how you lived your life. He finds his people's way back home and withers away. All the Petalars are shown flying to their secret garden and inspired Lionel and the rest of the Thundercats to never give up. It is such a great episode. So Outlaw Star has a unique cast of characters, and I would say they do a pretty good job of giving each a dedicated episode. The best but saddest episode has to be Jim's story. The episode starts off with our heroes cruising through space, and then suddenly they get attacked by an enemy spacecraft. After the Outlaw Star gets his ass kicked, it retreats from battle and lands on a colony for repairs. As they wait for repairs to be completed, they decide to split up and catch some R&R. Well, everyone but Jim, as always. He stays behind to find a way to defeat the enemy spacecraft if they so happen to encounter it later. After some time, Jim decides to take a walk for some much needed fresh air, and thus he falls in love at first sight with a cute little cat girl. Okay, so she's not a cat, but rather a cat lover. They converse for a bit, and our cat girl says that she also landed not too long ago, implying that it was fate who brought them together. Now Jim and this girl are literally kids. He is 11. I imagine she's roughly the same age, give or take. So I'm sure many of us can relate to falling for a pretty little girl during that age. What makes this episode so great is how well it shows their childlike affection for each other. There's a moment where she teases him by asking him if he likes her. And of course, Jim blushes. So they decide to meet up later for a date. The next day arrives and you gotta give it to Jim. He does it pretty big for an 11-year-old on a first date. He gives her a bouquet of flowers. They hang out for what seems to be hours and then decide to meet up once more. We see our cat girl go back to her ship, and it is revealed that she was the pilot of the enemy spacecraft from earlier. Her mission? To kill Gene and disable the Outlaw Star. Does she know about Jim being on board the Outlaw Star? Nope. So our cute little cat girl boards her ship. Jim also finishes up repairing the Outlaw Star, so they head to space for round 2. The final showdown begins and the Outlaw Star again battles against the Catgirl ship. What happens? Yup. They destroy the ship and everyone on board. And they didn't just destroy the ship either. They whooped that ship's ass Rocky style. And when I say they killed everyone on board, that includes the little girl's cats. They fucking killed cats. So they took a lot of damage in this battle regardless of victory, and are forced to land back in the colony for repairs. Jim is now excited because he gets another opportunity to meet Catgirl one more time. What happens when Jim waits for her arrival? She never shows up. We see Jim saddened, but not because he killed her. You see, it's never revealed to him that he murdered her. To him, he was just stood up. And that's not the end of it. We see the bouquet of flowers he gave her in space. Sad, right? Mewtwo's origin begins with talk about cloning the rarest Pokemon of Generation 1, Mew. It's here where we see time pass and then shown an experimental chamber which contains the clone of Mew, Mewtwo. He is literally Mew on steroids, a cross between Pokemon and human. He's also a troubled Pokemon. See, if you're familiar with the franchise, you probably know that already. And if not, it's okay. This is the introduction to his story. Baby Mewtwo is seen questioning the world around him through his subconscious. It's the first day in which he's fully aware of his surroundings. And this is where he has his first human encounter with a little girl named Amber. In fact, this is also where he meets a group of Pokemon for the first time as well. Those Pokemon are Charmander, Bulbasaur, and Squirtle. See, being a clone, Mewtwo doesn't quite grasp if he's Pokemon or human. So after introducing themselves to Mewtwo, they all become friends. Now again, this is his subconscious. The scientists are experimenting not only on Mewtwo, but also on the little girl we've met and the 3 other Pokemon. It's revealed that they are all alive and communicating via telepathy. All but one, that is. Amber seems to not even have a physical form. See, Amber is dead, and the main scientist behind the experiment is her father. We see some backstory that shows his wife leaving him over his obsession with cloning her. The doctor's motivation in successfully recreating Mew is to then use said knowledge to also recreate his daughter. How? By using the subconscious he somehow retained. Thus, why she has the name Amber 2. I know, this is some deep shit for a Pokemon story. Amber and the other Pokemon start to give Mewtwo a tour. They're flying around familiar places according to Amber's memories, visiting what seems to be her hometown. They see the sun and feel the breeze. Mewtwo's first exposure to these are breathtaking to him. Day turns to night, and this is where things take a turn for the worse. We witness Charmander 2 tragically disappearing. The look on his face is filled with sadness because he knows he's going away for good. And he was also playing around and smiling just a few seconds prior to this. Squirtle 2 and Bulbasaur 2 soon follow. The scientists then explain to each other that this wasn't the first time these experiments go wrong, and that sustaining artificial life is extremely difficult. Going back to Mewtwo, he has no chance to say goodbye to his Pokemon friends. Sadly, Amber, too, starts to disappear, saying her final farewell and teaching him that it's okay to be sad, especially in moments like these. Mewtwo feels sadness for the first time, all on the first day when Mewtwo can say he was alive. He embraces happiness and goes through tragedy all at the same time. So our episode starts off showing a little girl. Yeah, I know, common theme, right? Running from a dark figure, but then runs into a biker gang, which for no reason decides to pick on the defenseless little girl. Now this girl has to be 11 to 12 the most, so why the bullying, I have no idea. But of course comes Tim Drake to the rescue. After taking down the gang, Robin begins to speak to the girl he rescued. Now, it's not revealed immediately who she's running from in the first place, but she does mention that she has to keep moving forward. And to be honest, if you've seen the show before, you kind of know who it is later on, before the big reveal. The girl ditches Robin, but leaves a lasting impression. After some time, Robin later spots her once more, and again, doing the same as before, she seems to be running from someone. After Robin confronts her again, the girl takes the time to speak to him, which she seems to enjoy the company of. Apparently, she doesn't even remember her own name, so Robin nicknames her Annie. It's here where we quickly see that the one chasing her this whole time was her father. And this ain't a father you want to take a daughter from. Robin tries to be the hero and gets his ass murked, but Robin's own daddy comes to the rescue. Batman and Robin attempt to chase evil daddy, but just like any one of us would do when confronting Batman, evil daddy shits his pants and flees. After losing angry daddy, Annie tries to warn Robin of her dad. It's obvious that Robin is head over heels for this girl, so what does he do? He does everything in his power to try to help her remember who she is. Annie seems to have a strong attachment to a nearby sewer, so Robin takes her there. They run into Daddy again, and this time we see who it is. Clayface. He transforms and chases down the two without holding back. Clayface insists to return the girl to him. Now at first, I was like, how does Clayface have a daughter? But we then find out that she is also Clayface. She's part of him. He created her to be a lookout to the outside world as he recovered from a battle with Batman years ago. Annie, not knowing anything about her past, is now clear because she has none. Clayface violently chases them once more, as absorbing Annie would make him complete. As he chases them, Clayface tries to kill Robin, and what does Annie do? She sacrifices herself by fusing with Clayface to allow Robin enough time to run away. Robin does not run away, but rather stands idly by as Annie is taken away for good. Robin, seeing Annie die, causes him to lash out, demanding Clayface to return Annie, and even tries to kill him. Batman stops him, and then the place explodes. Caught in the explosion, Clayface is then arrested. At the end of the episode, Batman quotes, "Sometimes there are no happy endings," and Robin is asked what Clayface should be charged with by the cops, and Robin replies with murder. In this tragic episode of Samurai Champloo, we finally have another male who dies. No more females finally. They were owning us in that field. How about that intro? Anyway, so this episode begins with Fu and company purchasing food. Fu gets bumped into by some prick who tells her to watch out. As she goes to pay for her food, she realizes the prick who stole her money when he ran into her. Jin and Mugen attempt to find them, but are unsuccessful. It doesn't end here. We then see our thief pickpocket a big criminal around town, stealing something pretty expensive. He gets away with it, but the criminals then start searching for him as well. In the meantime, the thief starts to pawn off the stolen goods. We get a look at his mother shortly after. She is very sick, and apparently he's stealing to help her with her sickness. Fu finds the whereabouts of our thief and also the reason for his thievery ways. His mother sees her sneaking around the backyard and assumes Fu is her son's girlfriend. Fu plays along after some backstory about his father leaving the family years ago, leaving our thief to be the man of the house at such a young age. Showing our thief speak to a doctor, doctor basically tells him that his mother will never get better unless he pays up for a more expensive medicine. Such great medical practice. Our thief is now inspired to sell the item he stole from the town gang. Fu finds our thief, but so does the gang, and after an exchange of words, she screams out for help, causing the local policemen to answer. Our thief grabs Fu and even declaring kidnap. What an idiot. So he retreats to a storage room where the police surround him outside. He has an exchange of words with Fu about the difficulties of life. He tells her there's reason for being a pickpocket. Apparently, being a kid to the public eye prevents him from getting a legitimate job where he can make an honest living. Now, considering his dad left the family at such an early age, it forces him to fend for himself, and now his ill mother. This doesn't leave him with much options, especially since he has to get medicine quite frequently for his mom. Not having a job backs him up in a corner, which then causes him to steal. Sad, but something that happens even today in real life. So the policemen yell out to let go of the hostage or they will use force. Remember the thugs from before? Well, they make their way inside the storage room and attempt to kill them. Luckily, Fu's companions break in and dispatch of these low-life thugs. Fu insists that he escapes using the commotion to his advantage and sneak past the police. He jumps through the window and makes his way out of the crime scene. Policemen spot him and give chase. They once again corner him, but this time without a room in between them. He draws his blade and sadly, they kill him. Fu sees everything. What seems to be days later, Fu visits his home and speaks one last time with his mother. The mother, not being clueless, admits to knowing what her son was up to, stating that he probably paid the price for his thievery ways. Fu cuts her off, stating that he was a good man. But it still doesn't change that Shunsuke died. A moral that some unfortunately would never receive without the price of death.